Hi, I'm Mia Friedman and welcome to No Filter. This episode is actually my worst nightmare. You see, something you might not know about me is that I'm really scared of space. And I know that might sound like a really stupid thing to be scared of, but I just find that it's too big, and thinking about it or talking about it gives me anxiety. So the fact that I was in a podcast studio today with someone who is preparing not just to go into space, but to go to Mars is a huge deal for me. Imagine this for your first date. You've just met this girl. You're gay, so let's just get that out there. And you're getting on really well. So you say, well, what are you into? What are your hopes and dreams for the future? And she says to you that she's really interested in space and space travel. And you say, well, that's really sounds great. How interesting. Tell me more. And she says that she's signed up for Mars One, which is a mission that aims to establish life on Mars. And you say, gosh, that sounds so interesting. And she says, well, there's one thing you should probably know up front about me, and that is that if I'm selected for Mars One, I can't actually get back. It's a one-way ticket. That is what happened to the girlfriend of Dianne McGrath, who is my guest in today's episode. She's Melbourne-based, she's a consultant, and the idea of a one-way mission to Mars might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually possibly going to become a reality for Dianne. In 2013, she did indeed sign up for Mars One, and she's now in the final 100 remaining candidates in the world. There was something like 200,000 that applied. At the end of this year, she'll find out whether or not she's been chosen as one of the 24 finalists who will eventually make the journey. This interview did my head in. Even just thinking about this has done my head in. And everyone I've talked to about it has just been fascinated and had a million questions. You can imagine how many questions I had once I overcame my anxiety. How do you prepare to live on Mars? How do you prepare to leave Earth forever? What do you pack? What do you eat? What do you tell your family? What happens about love? Can you have sex on Mars? Who's going with you? I had so many questions for Dianne, and she was divine. She was so gracious. She answered them all, and now I'm less scared. It's still my worst nightmare, but this interview was actually one of the most fascinating I've ever done. Enjoy my conversation with Dianne McGrath. So Dianne, Mars.
Yes.
When are you coming back?
Never, if I get to go. It's a one-way trip.
Take me through that process of going, I know what I want to do. I want to go and die on a distant planet.
Well, actually, the process is more of I'd like to go live on a distant planet first, and then I'll get to the dying thing later. There's always this thing called life first.
Will there be much living?
I hope so.
Will there be much time to live? Like, how long will it take you to get there?
Yeah, so the journey takes about 7 months from Earth to Mars when the planets are best aligned. But it's
a long flight.
It is a long flight, long car trip. But it's really more about how long it is before we even leave this planet, because it's going to take about 12 years roughly of training for those who are finally selected at the end of this year. So it's a long time before I get to go if I get chosen.
How did you first hear about this being a possibility?
On my iPad. I was at a girlfriend's place, just having a cup of tea, going to have dinner together, blah, blah, and I was sitting on her couch, and I remember flipping through some stuff on my iPad, and I'm a bit of a science geek, so I was reading a science blog, and I remember this one line in the newsletter, which was something, the exact words escape me now, but it's something like astronauts wanted for one-way trip to Mars. I mean, who wouldn't want to click on that, right?
That's my worst nightmare, so I wouldn't want to click on that.
But wouldn't you be curious?
Well, I even find talking about space to be quite frightening. My husband's very interested in space and the planets, and I'm just like, it's too big, it's too far away, I find it overwhelming and it gives me anxiety. So I would not click on that, but you did.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was excited by it. I mean, it's hard to sort of reflect back now and go, oh, yes, I felt this.
How long ago was it?
This was in April 2013.
Okay.
So it feels like forever ago, but
yeah,
I guess
about 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, golly gee. And I remember clicking on it and thinking, wow. as in like possibility. I was so excited about what this could possibly be, the opportunity. I didn't envision myself actually going potentially. I just wanted to know, what is this, and what are the opportunities and possibilities of this incredible mission. So it's kind of how it started, and and it's I put in an application eventually. It took a couple of months to put it together though.
What do you put in your application? Like, I imagine it's more complicated than writing a Tinder profile or applying for like a regular job as like an accountant.
It's true.
What do you have to say? Willing to die alone on Mars?
Well, not quite.
I'm not spinning
those
this very
words.
positively,
No, that's fine. But honestly, you raise some good points because, well, like any other job interview, the company's going to want to know, what do you bring to this job? Do you understand what the requirements are?
What were they looking for?
They weren't looking for technical skills. They were actually looking for people skills. They were looking for, have you got the right mindset? What's your psychological profile like? Some of the questions were very much psychological profiling, examples of when you dealt with people of different cultures, how you manage with that, times when you faced fear, things like that. So you can imagine, I mean, you're talking about it yourself there, Mia, around, oh my God, anxiety, worst nightmare sort of thing.
I don't think I'd be picked, Dianne.
I think you'd be a fabulous ambassador of this planet.
Were there questions about dependence?
There are a number of people who have been shortlisted who do have children or are obviously younger adults. So
they don't have little kids?
There are some who have, very young children,
Stop
babies
it.
or very young children. But if you think about it, if we don't go for at least another 12 years.
Oh, well, that's fine then. They'll be 12 when you die.
Well, I won't die unless I die on the actual launch pad.
Yeah,
if you
but they'll be
think about
12 when it... Do you have kids?
I do not, no.
And what about partners?
Yes, I have a partner.
You have a partner?
Indeed, yes. So, and we met after I had been shortlisted the first stage. And I remember saying, thinking at our first date, I thought, how do I
when do I bring this up?
Yeah. And do you? Because of course the first date's always a bit like, oh, is it going to work?
Yeah.
What's the chemistry like? All that sort of stuff. And I thought, oh yeah, this is going really well, really well. Okay, let me either drop a clanger or the opposite. It's going to be ignition. I haven't used one. I haven't used that before.
That's a little rocket joke.
It's a little rocket joke.
And which was it?
It was actually, it was fantastic. She didn't think of me as an absolute nutcase. Instead, she thought, wow, that's really interesting. So what football team do you break for? I thought, yes.
Really?
That was exactly the right sort of answer to me. It's like, okay, fantastic.
So she didn't
it's a part
dwell
of your
on
life,
it.
but that's not all of your life.
Did she sort of say, well, what sort of time frame are we talking about here? Or did she just think this will never happen?
No, she was interested in it because she hadn't heard about it at that stage. So I explained what the Mars One mission was. It's about permanent settlement on Mars, when it would be likely to go, what the selection process was, training programs, all that sort of stuff. So we did talk about a bit of that sort of thing. But then we talked about the stuff that you do on first dates, like, who's your favourite band? Where do you like to go for dinner? All that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I imagine that wasn't the last time you spoke about it, though.
No, and I guess it's a bit like my family too. And my good friends. You do check in on people on things that are important in our lives. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, if you think about when someone starts up a new business, oh my goodness, I don't know if you know many people who've been in startups, and it's a huge thing to take those thoughts. Hello.
Yes, it's huge.
How many times have you checked in with people that matter?
But it's different because I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, is it a little bit like coming out or saying that you've got a terminal illness? Because you're basically saying at a certain point you're going to have to say goodbye to me and I'm leaving your life forever.
This is
or
true.
You'll never see me again.
Yes, well, never see me from the physical face-to-face perspective.
Yeah, okay.
But we'd have internet, so I'd be able to record video messages, and if I get chosen and get to go to Mars, and send them back down the line to Mum, so to speak. So
how did you tell your mum? That's what I wanted to ask about. Is it like coming out, or it's nothing like coming out?
Coming out, because I am a gay woman, coming out was...
I figured when you said that you had a date
girlfriend.
and you had a girlfriend.
Some people might have missed that bit.
I know. It's not important.
So I remember when I came out to my mum when I was 19, I was really anxious about that and nervous about that. And I tried to drop enough subtle hints along the way. And
how did you do that?
The girlfriend staying over, so and so. Oh, we're really friends. Spent a lot of time together. Oh, going out to that place. Where are we going? And just exposing Mum to some different things. And she picked it up, and she wasn't stupid, but it didn't mean that I wasn't nervous at the same time. Like I thought, oh my God, how will my mother respond to this? Because I had friends who had parents who had been extremely aggressive, throwing them out of home, all sorts of things. And so I thought, oh gosh.
And Dianne, you're 46?
47.
47. So it's funny when people our age talk about the idea of coming out and what the climate was like for gay people. Now it's like, oh yeah, I'm gay,
Whatever.
I'm bi, I'm trans, I'm whatever, I'm non-gender conforming. But
exactly.
then people were chucked out of, I mean they still are, but it was a big, big, big deal.
It was a big deal.
Lesbians
in
were
those days.
invisible when I was growing up.
It's very true. I didn't have any role models as a gay woman growing up.
There was no Ellen.
No, there wasn't. That came on board after I'd grown up, and I think it's what she did to come out and be on national television as a gay woman was incredible. And I don't just think for gay women, but for people who had been minorities, who had not seen themselves as represented in some way in the mainstream media. So it doesn't matter that she was a gay woman. She was someone who bravely stepped forward to say, "Here I am as myself."
And her career did suffer a bit of a roadblock, but ultimately she's the most famous, one of the most successful women
extraordinary
in entertainment.
And so generous about it too. And so I love how positive she is about things. You never see her slamming someone down.
And yet she's very passionate about same-sex marriage and marriage equality. And But back to you. So when you were 19, you had to tell her. You hoped she knew. She kind of did.
She kind of did, but she did say, "Don't tell your dad." So let me break that to him. Which was, I mean, my dad loves me. My parents. I'm very lucky. I'm loved by my parents.
They were accepting straight away.
They were very accepting, and that made my life a lot easier. I felt very accepted in that sense, and I think. I always had a lot of support as a child. I was the only girl. I have 3 brothers, and my dad always made me feel that there was nothing I couldn't do just because I was a woman. For example, I have a twin brother, and anything Dave was doing, I wanted to do too. Of course I did.
Yeah.
And he started playing cricket at the age of, I think it was 6 or 7, and I wanted to play too. And of course, girls didn't play cricket in the 70s.
No way.
So my dad...
Girls didn't play anything.
No, well,
except
netball.
a little bit of tennis
I played netball.
Yeah.
But I wanted to play soccer and cricket like my brothers because they were my brothers.
For sure.
And so my dad decided to coach the local boys team. So then there was nothing that prevented me from getting in that door. Sure, I actually had to work a lot harder so that the boys in the team didn't think I was getting a free ride.
Yeah.
But there
what
was
a great
nothing that stopped
dad
me.
knocking down those barriers for you.
It's amazing. It's pretty amazing.
So then tell me about sitting down and telling your mum you were going on a one-way trip to Mars.
Yeah, well, it's a slightly different sort of conversation. So I was in Europe when I found out that I'd been shortlisted. I was there doing a university intensive as part of my degree at the time. And I remember getting the email from Mars One saying, "Congratulations, you've been shortlisted. Go and have this ream of medical tests." And I thought it was spam to start with. I thought, this is not serious. I didn't really
How many
get through.
people applied?
Over 200,000 people started the application process. So, it's not the sort of thing you think, oh, so I didn't tell.
It's like a lottery.
Yeah. Well, and like a lottery, you don't say, "Hey, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket." You say, "I've won the lottery." So that's kind of the approach I took. I didn't tell my folks that I had applied.
So in your head, it was happening.
Well, yeah, I thought,
you had to be committed.
Yeah,
I suppose.
exactly. Otherwise, I would have pulled my application along the way. And you can at any stage. Mars One has always said you can always pull out if it's not for you, if your life circumstances change, because people do. I mean, life affects people differently. And anyway, so I remember getting the email on the top, and I thought, oh, heck, I better tell Mum now. How on earth do I tell Mum I could be going to Mars? This is not going to be the easiest conversation in the world. So I called her from Europe, and because I thought, oh gosh, it might get in the media, so I better tell her before it gets in the media here in Australia, and told her that I was, I applied to go to Mars, and after a little bit of discussion, and I sort of had this sense that she was incredibly excited. I couldn't see her, of course, I was just on the phone. But this sense that she was incredibly excited. And I thought, well, why wouldn't she be, I guess? I mean, there's her daughter potentially doing something so extraordinary to be the next inspiration for humanity on the next planet that we could be on.
She didn't get it, did she?
Well, then I dropped that one-way bit. Yeah, the one-way bit. And of course, I'm her only daughter. And so, that was a really difficult time, as you can imagine.
How did she react on the phone?
Oh, she was, you couldn't see her. So I could only just imagine her reaction. And she was still very positive, but I could tell there was a bit of a space So she was trying to obviously come to grips with it. But I mean, over time and not long after, she honestly, my mum's attitude in life is, why not?
Oh, she's a better woman than I would have been.
And same thing with my dad. When I told my dad, he was very simple. He said, you got to live your dreams, dear.
Oh.
And so I thought, well, they're prepared to understand that part of the sacrifice is us not being able to give each other a physical hug anymore after a particular point in time. But I used to live in Europe for a while, and so we'd have remote conversations, and I think about so many people like refugees that leave their country,
and
that
immigrants.
Never,
You're right. You're
and
absolutely
never have the
right.
opportunity to go back or to have any sort of communication.
Yeah.
So I'll be quite privileged if I do get to go, that I can still have communication in some form with those I love.
Did your twin brother react in the same way?
My brothers are awesome. They were like, oh, that's wow,
cool.
Seriously, what is it? That's cool. My nephews think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think I have a lot of cred. Yeah.
And then, so you were single when you applied, and then you started dating your partner. As things progressed with her, and you've been together for a couple of years now, has there been times when you've gone, oh, well, maybe I don't want to go, or she's gone, maybe I don't want you to go? No,
ever since my relationship started, and at least, I was transparent from the start, this is what I'm committed to this. And then as the relationship evolved and became stronger and stronger, that's still been a part of who I am in the relationship. I guess it's like anybody who has a strong passion or a dream to do something which is important to them. If they're in a relationship that's supportive and trusting, then that is able to encompass that. And we do completely support each other no matter what that dream is that we have. And so, eventually there'll be stages when I may have, if I get selected to go at the end of this year, then I'll be relocated overseas, and then it's a case of, okay, so I guess we can go overseas now. Like, it's a we, we're a we, and we just make our decisions together to help each other achieve our goals.
And have you talked about what will happen when you leave in 12 years?
Yeah, if I
that
do
you'll
get
stay
chosen,
together?
Yeah, at the moment that's what we're planning to do. I mean, life changes, of course, but our goal is to, I guess, try and have the longest long-distance relationship ever, and said
till death do us part.
Exactly, and just death will be a long time away. I mean, all of the women in my family have lived to very, very ripe old ages. Yeah. So if I do get to go to Mars,
just
I'll be in my 60s. On Earth, but
on Earth they've lived.
On Earth they've lived to their 80s, 90s, and 100s.
Yeah.
So I could live quite a very, very fruitful and productive life of 20 plus years of whatever I can contribute
jobs on Mars. I imagine that makes you attractive to the selection program, the fact that you have lived, that the women in your family have lived such long lives.
Well, they actually haven't asked that, which is...
really? I thought they wouldn't want to send anyone who's going to cark it after a couple of years.
We have had to have medical assessments done, and in that the doctors would have had to indicate if there are any health risks in our
family.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
So has anyone reacted badly apart from me?
I don't think your reaction is a bad reaction. I think it's one that reflects thinking about how would I feel in that situation.
Hasn't anyone in your life been sad or angry with you? I would be angry with you and
Not
sad.
Angry. No one's been angry with me. Only people that don't know me.
That would be me.
So it's nothing, but we just don't know each other very well
we
yet.
We don't.
So and if you knew me, you'd be going, oh my God, that's amazing.
So
you do it, I won't.
everyone's just been like, that's fantastic. You go, girl.
That's actually, it's pretty much some of the responses I got from all my mates when I said, hey, guess what, guys? I might be going to Mars. That was exactly the sort of responses I got.
It does sound pretty cool when you say it like that. So tell me what it actually means. So what do you pack?
Probably not a great deal, and things that are able to be easily replicated through 3D printing. I mean, you think about it, you're getting a tiny amount of space to carry things. Yes, Mars One's plans are to send the majority of the infrastructure and supplies in advance. So we get there and the society, all of the habitats will be already constructed.
So how many of you are going to go?
4 people every 2 years, or 26 months from 2031 onwards.
So it'll be like Intruders. On The Bachelor. No. Just when you're bored with everyone, there'll be 4 new people will arrive.
Well, a little bit different. The community will just enlarge slowly over time as more infrastructure comes and as the community gets larger.
Every 2 years there'll be a shipment of stuff and new people.
That's correct.
For how long? Indefinitely?
Yeah. Eventually, the concept, because it's about setting up a permanent settlement on Mars, the concept is about being sustainable, of course. You're not sustainable if you're relying on resupply from Earth. So you've got to be able to produce your own food, water, oxygen, materials on Mars from Martian materials.
How do you do that?
Well, water's not too hard. There's actually a lot of water frozen in the soil on Mars. So you just how to get
So it's
water
not like the
from
moon.
ice.
What do we know about Mars and the habitat?
A lot. We know
Really?
we know more about Mars than what the early settlers knew about Australia when they came here. So we know exactly what the soil composition is like in certain parts of the planet. We know what the atmosphere is made of. We know what the temperature's like. We know what the changes in temperatures like. We know what the humidity is like. We know so much.
What's the temperature like?
It's pretty cold. It
Like
ranges.
really cold?
Yeah.
How cold?
Well, it depends on time of year. The coldest it can be is about minus 155 on the North Pole.
What?
but-
Minus 150 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. But the warmest is around 27 around the equator.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, see?
27 I can handle.
But
How
we're
do
living indoors all the time anyway, so it'll be like being an air-conditioned environment where...
So you'll be living in a sealed sort of what, like in bubbles or in
the habitats will be essentially they'll be like having the I guess like a module from the spaceship with a long extended inflatable module attached to that. So something about as long as, say, a swimming pool lane and a couple of lanes wide.
that you can see through?
No, won't be able to see through it. We would have to have a lot of soil over the top to provide shielding from radiation. So we wouldn't be able to see. The only
So
time
you'll
we'd
be
see-
underground?
Underground, above ground.
Yeah, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, in above ground caves essentially.
Sort of bit not dissimilar to being on a submarine.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good analogue, I think. Think about what submariners go through. So we do know a lot about the sort of mental challenges that
Yeah.
people face with such isolation and not being able to get out a lot. But the difference is we can get out. We can put on a spacesuit and go for a stroll around Mars.
Is that gravity?
There is gravity. It's about a third of Earth's gravity. So we'd be able to still walk. It would
But-
just be more like loping.
You
So
float a
long-
little bit,
but
not
so
off into the atmosphere.
Not off into the atmosphere. No, would still be brought down to the ground,
Right.
but there'd be longer, slower steps, which means you could actually move a lot faster if you use a bit
right.
of push. I'd probably be able to run a marathon in about just a bit over an hour and a half instead of 4 hours.
So it really is the two aspects. There's the mental, or maybe three. There's the mental, the social, and the physical.
Yeah, and the
challenges
technical.
and the technical. The technical, let's park to one side.
Yeah.
But the physical, what do you do if someone gets sick? What do you do if someone needs surgery? Do you need to? There was that famous case of the I think that was a scientist in Antarctica, and she got breast cancer, and she had to operate on herself, I think, via a camera. How do you prepare for all of that?
And remote medicine. Think about the technological advances that will occur because we have to be able to survive and look after ourselves on a planet that's over 54 million kilometres away.
Yeah.
We'll take things to a new level of medicine, remote medicine.
So if you found a lump in your breast, say,
Yep, it would be treated locally. So we will have, in each team, there'll be a couple of people who are medically trained. So in the short list of the 100 at the moment, there are a couple of people who are doctors, but others will also be trained who have some. It's handy to have some sort of general knowledge already, but they're going to have to. We'll have to be MacGyvers and MacGyvers, essentially, in this, because each crew will be 2 males, 2 females from 4 different countries and age diverse. So extraordinary diversity, but trained on so many different skills.
all
over 12
English
years.
speaking?
English will be the primary spoken
Okay.
language. However, the concept, I've heard the head of the selection committee talk about some of the training, and one of the concepts he's put forward is the idea of these diverse crews spending a couple of months in each other's countries every year to learn the language, learn the culture, so then you can understand where someone's from. You know, what makes them tick? Why do they behave in a certain way? And then when you have a deeper understanding of somebody, communication's much easier.
How do you prepare to spend, sounds like marriage really, but the rest of your life with 3 strangers? I guess they won't be strangers when you set
they're
off
not
together.
strangers already. I mean, the 100 of us have been shortlisted since 2014, I think it is now. No, 2015. And we spend time online with each other just about daily. I would not have a day go by where I don't have contact or communication with some of
And
the
what do you
100.
talk about?
Everything, anything, stuff related to Mars, stuff not related to Mars. We get to know each other. those who might be wanting to practice their English, because at the moment we're from around 30, 40 different countries. Some of the English, as I said, has to be a common spoken language, but what if Spanish is your home language and you want to improve your English? So we have chats to help people improve their English. We help people others in the 100 try and understand some of the technical material if we don't understand some of the engineering that we have to study or whatever else.
Yeah.
So we help each other out and we just connect.
And do you sort of, you must be going, oh, I hope it's this one, and wouldn't it? Do you make the combinations of 4 in your mind and think, I hope it's her and him and him?
It's going to be, it's hard to tell because, you can get a good sense of people from an online presence, which is all we have until we spend time together. And then when you spend physical time in a room...
Well, you have to do chemistry tests in that way.
Well, exactly. Part of our selection, the next round of selection, all 100 of us, we brought together overseas. We haven't been told location yet. It'll happen probably in either October or November this year. And we'll be in 10 teams of 10, diverse in age, gender and also cultural. And we will go through up to 5 days of team challenges, technical, physical, etc., outdoors, indoors.
What might be an example of one of those challenges?
We haven't been told. We've been told. No idea. It'll be solving problems as a team. And it's been suggested that we may be spending, potentially, our time together as a team, as in, i.e. at night as well. So living together during those.
That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So how well do you get on with it? How do you deal with the issues that are the small things? Because the small things matter.
A lot.
Did you turn the light off when you leave the room? Who left the toilets there? All those sorts of things.
Don't chew with your mouth open. Yeah.
All those things matter over time. It's the little things like that actually break the camel's back, and not, you got that mathematics sum wrong.
I think also knowing that you're with that person literally forever. Like there's no option. There's no divorce. Death is the only way out.
It is like a marriage in some ways.
But it's different to a marriage, because there's always a way out with a marriage, isn't there? And that you don't, most married people don't spend 24 hours together for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. So it does take it to a new level. I think some of the human elements that are around, not just psychology, but how we live together and can inhabit a space together are going to be extraordinary to explore. Mars One are filming this round of selection and filming our training over the 12 plus years, and then obviously we'll film ourselves on Mars, whoever gets to go. So we can learn from this maybe. Is there a way, especially I love the idea of learning about how other cultures operate and what makes them behave the way they do. Maybe we can show that we can be a united humanity, and that gender doesn't matter and age doesn't matter. Everyone has an opportunity to contribute.
It's an extraordinary social experiment.
Isn't it though?
As well as a scientific one.
I love it.
When you say there's diversity in age, how diverse?
The youngest, there are a couple of women who were in their early 20s. They're 22 this year, I think it is. And the eldest is a gentleman from Pakistan, Reginald, who is, I think he's 63, ex-military.
Right.
And everybody brings different skills. And it's really interesting. We obviously have to be able to have the capacity to learn, and we'll because we'll have to learn all this technical knowledge. So in part, during the last round of selection, which was interview, we had to answer technical questions. So we needed to be able to comprehend all of that. And we have to currently learn a heap of technical material, because we'll be tested on that during selection. But not everybody comes from that background. We have people who are artists, for example, who are in the short list. We have a pop musician. We have all sorts. What represents our community, if without culture as well, represented through music, through the arts? What are we? How do we reflect ourselves?
Who's paying for all this?
It's going to be, it is funded at the moment, predominantly through private investors. So private investors, and Mars One listed actually on the stock exchange late last year. They also get a lot of money through people who just donate, people who buy merchandise. Eventually, part of their funding model will include media rights and that, but that's not really important at the moment. It's really more about those that are interested in investing. And they just had I think just before Christmas they got a secured investment for about €6 million, I think it was, from a Hong Kong investor. So
I can't imagine 6 million would go very far though. At what stage do all of you get paid?
Not until we get trimmed down to 24. Yeah, so at the end of this year, when 24 of us are left through the process, those 24 get offered a full-time contract to be employed by Mars One in the astronaut corps.
For the next 12 to 11 years until it's time to go.
Correct.
Well, for some, it will be not time to go for some of those 24. Will all of those 24 ultimately go over a period of
not necessarily.
12
and
years?
Even if you're chosen in the 24, you may not make it past year 1, year 2, year 3, because what if somebody in your team has something happen to them which changes their pathway in their life?
Sure.
What if they get a terminal illness? What if something happens to their
What if they fall in love? What if they get pregnant?
Who knows? Who knows? Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't guarantee these things. And so because we'll be trained as teams, that team is taken out. Or that team might underperform each year. The selection committee is going to be.
Hang on, you're
assessing
training in a team of 4,
Mhm.
and if someone in your team, something happens to them, the whole team's out.
Yeah, and that's the sort of stuff that NASA does with their crews. If you think about, say, the Apollo 13 mission, I think it was, right up to the last minute, the crew was ready to roll, and then someone got sick, thought to have had chickenpox, so that whole crew was pulled out, and another crew was put in. So the concept is to have a whole lot of crews ready to go just in case, because you can't bank on everything being 100% perfect on that last day. You've got to have as many options as possible available to you.
Tell me about the people who've got small children. I keep coming back to that.
Yeah. Inspirational people. Hey, how big is that a decision for them to do something that's
I
a
don't find that
sacrifice
inspirational,
too?
Di. I find that incredibly negligent.
Well, I guess everyone comes
Set
from...
me straight.
Well, I don't have children, so
Yeah.
I cannot speak on behalf of those people. But I do know a number of them, and I see them as incredibly inspiring people who love their children immensely, and who understand that being a role model is a great thing for their kids, and allowing their kids to see that you can live your dreams. And how many parents...
What about the dreams of the kids to have parents
They're
that can
still gonna
tuck them
have
in at
parents
night and
too.
give them a cuddle?
There are more than one parent, usually. Not always.
Fair point.
Not
Still.
always. And how many people often... I mean, I don't know about you, but from our generation,
people
your dad
leave.
wasn't always home all the time either.
true.
I mean, I don't remember my dad much as a kid because I was in bed before he got home. He left so early in the morning. I never saw him when I was tiny.
Yeah.
Not that was what he wanted, but that was how it was. So my mum did all of that stuff. I really kind of had essentially one parent and the community of others in the family, the aunts, the whatever else.
Is there an expectation that people will pair up and have children and populate Mars or not?
Not for some time. The head of selection, who's the chief medical officer, has said that he doesn't want any of the early crews having kids at all. If you think about it, it's going to be very rudimentary when it comes to the medical facilities. We won't be able to deal with major cancer surgery.
So that's like an ethical issue that you don't want to bring children into that situation.
It's too much risk. Too much risk for not just for the child but for the woman. And we also have no clue, no idea medically, physiologically about how a woman's body will deal with conception, with carrying, with childbirth, how that infant will evolve as a young child, and with such a different environment, with the different potential radiation exposure, with different gravity. We don't know. There's too much risk there for that to be carte blanche, go for it, be humans. Once we know that it's safe, when we see through small animals safely having small babies, and those small babies...
So you'll take animals with you?
I don't think they're planned for the first few crews. I do understand that the food system will be predominantly hydroponic, supported with insects and algae. So insects...
What are you going to eat?
Plants and insects and algae. I've been eating insects now for a couple of years.
Have you?
Yeah. Crickets. I eat crickets pretty much every day. And actually...
Is that to get accustomed to the taste?
I thought I'd give it a whirl. When I first heard about the fact that would potentially be part of the food system, I thought, better see if I like it. And handily I do. But what food? When it comes to insects, they're a critical part of the food system. Anyone that's who has a yard and has compost, lift up that lid. What do you see? Not just worms.
Yeah.
There's a heap of insects in there. They break down all of that the food matter that we don't eat, so the nutrients can be taken up again. Really important. And pollination. We have to have insects to pollinate all those plants. So they're really important, and they're also very nutritious. There's it's 8 times more calcium in a cricket than there is in red meat. For example, where are we going to get our calcium as women? We really need that to support bone health. But it's not just calcium. There's iron, much more iron in crickets and red meat. So it's a much, and so little water. And if you think about
water. Oh, you need not as much water to make a cricket than you do to make a cow.
Yeah, a litre of water will produce roughly about 1 kilogram of cricket meat. 1,000
cricket meat.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
1,550 litres of water are used for a cow.
What are you going to miss, Di?
Well, I'll miss. Other than butter, because if we're not going
I can't take butter with you.
Oh, there's no cow.
Oh, there's no cows.
Cow. Imagine the size of a cow.
I have to
in a
use that. I
spaceship.
can't
It'll
believe
be
it's
tricky.
not butter stuff.
Well,
It's not fake butter.
No fake. In fact, I love the concept. This is going to be a place where there's no processed food. Is it? We'll be growing all of our own. There's not going to be any chemicals associated with it. It's just all what we produce.
No chocolate.
I love it. I'll miss that. But see, you can grow cacao beans. So
What about wine?
wine? It's a plant, isn't it?
It
So
is.
things
Grapes,
grow.
fermented.
Yeah, grapes take a bit of time. They don't just grow in the first year, but they do grow.
Netflix.
Netflix. Oh, that's easy.
Oh, you can get that. Will you
Of
be
course
able to
we
get
can.
that?
Yeah, we'll be able to download stuff from
Really?
the server. Yeah, or internet.
So you'll have internet access.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be able to follow the footy. It'll just be delayed.
Find
telecast.
recipes for your crickets.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And
On
ants.
toast.com.
Ants, yeah. Chinese black ants. I have
Yeah.
them every day. Mm.
What are some of the other things that we probably wouldn't have thought of?
Oh, golly.
I mean, everything. But you won't, essentially when you step
what
onto
will I
that
miss?
rocket, you won't breathe
Okay.
air again, will you?
I won't
You won't feel the outdoors on your skin.
That's the big one. I think that there are the things that we take for granted on this planet. Ever since I thought that, okay, this could be possible, that in 10 years, 12 years' time, I could be living on Mars. What would my life look like? So what do I need to make sure I experience more today? Don't lose
Are
these
you a
moments.
bit bucket listish at the moment?
Not really bucket listish. I'm just trying to be more present.
Yeah.
You know, how do you try and be present today when you've got this thing that's 12 years' time that you're trying to
Yeah.
work towards too? So it's a real balance, but being present. You have brown eyes. You know, how
I
many
do.
people actually look at someone and go, "Oh, I see."
I
the
know
colour
you've
of
got
your
a
eyes."
very engaging, like you are very present.
Yeah.
Have you always been like that, or is that something you've trained yourself into?
I always give people attention. I think
Yeah.
if someone's talking to me, they're honouring me with their time, and there's something that of value here in this moment.
Your phone's not even on the desk in
No, of
front of
course
you.
not.
You
It's on
say, of
silent.
course not, as if none of ours should be. And Lies next to me has actually been texting, and mine's down here, and I haven't caught a look at it. And she's
Taking notes.
she's pretending that she's
Yay.
taking notes. She's actually probably just on Tinder, and I'm pretending not to look at my phone. No, but you are very present, and that also makes me very present. I've lost my train of thought.
we were talking about just this. What would I miss? And
yeah.
the natural environment. So being present with the people I'm with is one part of it. But the other is being outside, feeling that sun, that wind. I don't tend to rug up too much if I can help it when I'm outside. I allow the environment to be a part of my environment. So if it's raining,
Have you
I'll
always
walk
been
in it.
like that?
I used to be a bit more. I used to feel the cold a lot. I could really feel the cold, but now.
150 degrees below zero.
But then I sort of remembered that we're kind of mammals. We used to always be exposed to extreme temperatures. So I started to expose myself to extreme temperatures again and see, does my body deal with this? Have I become soft because we're only in air-conditioned environments? And then I realised that, I'm really finding extreme heat and extreme cold. I
You
don't
can
need
handle
to
it.
put on 30 layers, yeah.
My name is Alyssa Warren. I'm on a mission to talk to some of the busiest women and try to figure out how the hell they do it all. Women like Zoe Foster-Blake,
5 more minutes in front of the mirror. Do it. Because when you look good, you feel good. You feel better.
Beck Judd,
I kind of think sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit out of control and I'm working really hard, I think, am I happy? Is my family happy? And if we still are, it's like, okay, this is good. It's not going to be this crazy forever.
and Janine Alice.
Mummy guilt needs to be abolished. It's ridiculous.
I don't know how she does it. It drops every Monday. Subscribe in iTunes or your favourite podcast app.
So is everybody supportive of your decision?
All my friends and family are. There's not a doubt about it. And it's interesting, in the general population, I get fabulous responses from people that love what I'm doing, think it's amazing, would never do it themselves, but think, fantastic, you go,
Yeah.
I'm right behind you. And I've had letters from women who've changed aspects of their life because they've followed my story and go, you're doing this thing, I'm going to do this thing, fantastic. This is my Mars, I'm going to make my ordinary extraordinary, whatever it is in their world. But it's not been all, it's not always been easy. I mean, I've had quite a few trolls over time.
Trolls.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so,
What
right?
would
Like, who
people
am I?
troll you? But what would people troll you about?
Well, I guess it's like anything. Why would anyone troll
True.
anyone?
Trolls are the worst.
They
They troll a
usually
kitten. if a kitten was on Twitter or social media. What do they troll you about?
Most people who troll me, who say unkind things, are usually people, well, I can not say usually, 100% none of them know me.
Yeah,
Not a
of
single
course.
one of them know a thing about
definition of
me.
troll.
And usually about 99% of them don't know anything about
But
them.
what's
I'm on
their
mission.
criticism? Because I can imagine trolling, not that I would troll, but I can imagine trolling people who have kids and going, you're irresponsible or you're selfish or whatever, because I can be a bit judgy like that. But what would they troll you about? Who are you hurting?
Well, not hurting anybody because I haven't
Clearly.
done anything.
Yeah. Who are you hurting with this idea of yours?
How dare I try and live my dream that doesn't actually affect me?
Exactly.
But I guess people are very challenged by things that that affect how they feel about their own safety and security. So if you think about those base needs of humanity, first is about being safe, secure and loved, and separation. A lot of people have fear of separation. How could you leave your mother, your family or whatever?
I was a bit like that.
But it's very
I
common
was
amongst
trolling you mildly. I see. So people get angry with
people
you
get
because they're
angry with
projecting you,
'cause
leaving
they're
them.
projecting. They're projecting. So that's from the psychological perspective. I can see what's happening. It's like you have a fear of of attachment or abandonment or whatever it is, and which might be perfectly understandable from their own home situation. But I'm not your partner, mother,
So
wife, whatever.
they devote. Of course, they do. They devote their time to go and
to hit you,
telling you off.
But I'll also get trolls who say something about how I look. Which is,
That's always good.
Women in the media.
Women.
How many women
Just
in the
women.
media will get that?
Yeah, women.
Exactly. And my intelligence saying, she must be incredibly stupid. Little do they know, if they actually research me, they'd know I have 4 university degrees and I'm doing a PhD.
Suck on it, trolls.
I think that we'd find out that I'm actually not
Suck on
not
it, you little
stupid.
egg avatar.
In saying that, I'm all for criticism. Scientific, intelligent criticism. In the world of research, if you don't actually question something, you're going to go, why? And try and seek to
I
understand
think being
why.
curious and being challenged is just very
Really
different
important,
to
really important.
trolling. I'm just hijacking your ears for 2 seconds to tell you some exciting news. I've written a book. It's called Work-Strife Balance, and it's for guilty friends, bad mums, crap wives, imperfect feminists, rebellious daughters, and any girl with a big mouth and at least one foot in it. It's for any woman who's ever asked, am I the only one who isn't coping? It has personal stories, life lessons, strategies for dealing with work and friends, and overwhelm and anxiety, and body issues, and parenting and relationships. And if you pre-order now, you'll get access to a bonus 3-part sneak peek book podcast where I break down the chapters with my son, Luca Levine, who actually wrote one of them, and exclusive access to a Work-Strife Balance Kickstart webinar with me, where I will run you through all the tips, tricks and tools that I've learned in my 2 decades of being a parent, 1 decade running a women's media company, and 45 years of being a woman. Plus, if you order now, you'll get 20% off the retail price. Just go to booktopia.com.au. Work-Strife Balance, the new book by me, Mia Friedman, for every woman who reckons that balance is bullshit. You know, I keep thinking about you leaving. Like, for you, there's this big adventure ahead of you. But for everyone else, there's a die-shaped hole in their life.
No, only a
Because
physical
you've gone.
die-shaped hole. The
Yeah,
die
it's
is
so
still
interesting
there, but
that you
it's just
keep
a
saying that.
Yeah, because I'm not dying.
They
I'm
can still
actually
talk to
going
you and they can still see you.
They'll be able to. They won't be able to do it live, like we're in the same room chatting. Immediate
'cause
communication.
it's
There's a
too
time
hard.
delay.
Yeah.
Of a minimum about 3 minutes one way to 22 minutes. So you can
That's a
imagine
very long time
It
delay.
is a long time delay. So
Hard to have banter.
Exactly, banter, not going to work. But you could script some fantastic jokes and send them to me, and I would laugh out loud and send my laughter back.
In half an hour.
Exactly.
So it's the physical missing of you, not the...
Yeah.
Okay, so
Which is interesting in
my
this social media world.
it
isn't
really is when I think about how my favourite way to communicate with people anyway is remotely.
Yeah.
So maybe this would actually suit me really well. What are you doing to me?
A lot of me time there. A lot of me
So
time.
much me time. What's going to happen if you don't get picked?
If I don't get picked?
Yeah.
If I don't get picked, well, either in selection or, in 12 years' time to get to go in 2031, life will go on. I mean, life does always go on. we're not irreplaceable in life, and I'm a strong believer in doing things that matter in this world, in any world. We only have one life. Time is so. I'm a I guess you could say an expert, or my area of passion is sustainability, and time is this resource that is gone before we even can grasp it. So do something useful and interesting with it. And I tend to try and make sure I'm always doing something which is of value to others. So while I'm preparing to go to Mars at the moment, which is something I'm passionate about, and I think it has a lot of value for many people in this world, the sort of technology and social advances and so forth that can come with it, and the inspiration. I'm also at the same time doing a PhD in food waste. We know food waste is a huge problem, both from the environment and the social impact. 1.8 million Aussies go without a meal at some stage because they can't afford it, yet we've grown enough food to feed 60 million here. So, if I'm doing something useful there as well, if you're doing something useful.
So Mars isn't your whole life, is what you're saying?
No, it's not.
It's part of your life.
It's part of my life.
I guess it's more that idea of to go as far as you've gone. It's like in your head, you've said, I've won the lottery, I'm going.
Yeah,
like you've had to
absolutely.
commit to it in your relationship, in all your relationships.
Yep, like a
in
startup.
Everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a startup.
And
Is it
so
the
then
only
when
thing to
it
do?
doesn't happen, you just adapt course.
Of course you do. It's like anything. If you start, I know a number of people who are entrepreneurs, and they've gone for this opportunity and that opportunity. That one hasn't worked, and you go, I really want it first.
And then you go pivot.
And you go, okay,
Pivot.
but this is an exciting thing, and I've learnt all of this from that, and perhaps I can now become this new person to bring to this new idea. So I
What
think
would
that's really
change
exciting.
about your life? Firstly, would there be any aspect of you that would be relieved?
I don't think so. I think I'm never disappointed in that way. Like, thank God I didn't get it. It's always a bit of it's a shame I didn't get it, but gee, I've learned so much, and what a great opportunity that was, and now I have.
I imagine you'd have to have reverse counselling in a way. Would you? Like reverse to like, okay, well, you're not going now.
Yeah, and honestly, I can guarantee I will be disappointed.
Your partner
if I
might
get-
go, your partner might be a bit disappointed. I'm just kidding.
No, look, I think she'd be excited and disappointed in both ways,
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause she
why
loves
wouldn't
you
be?
and
She
she
loves
wants-
me. She wants me here, but she also
Yeah.
loves me, and she wants me to do the things that matter to me. So, which is all you want in
Yeah.
life, isn't it?
So she'd
People
be
who
the
love
big
you to
winner,
love you.
really.
She'd
And your
win.
mum as well,
Mum,
and your dad.
Of course, and mum and dad.
Yeah.
But I think about the things that I've learnt. I'm a very reflective person, and I try and do journaling every day, and I see a psychologist every 2 months, because I think mental health is something we forget about from the proactive perspective.
Yes.
We spend so much time going, I need a Band-Aid, now I'm broken. How many times do we actually go, like we do with our teeth? You go to the dentist every 6 months for a checkup. Why on earth don't we go and see a psychologist or a counsellor or someone to go, I just need to make sure that I'm okay at the moment, or I've got these things I want to work on in the future. Can you help give me guidance towards this? So I
You're
use...
singing my song.
Am I? Oh, cool.
Yeah. I
Yay.
completely agree with that. So eloquently put.
Thank you. Well, my psychologist is just fabulous. Because I have this, maybe a slightly more unusual goal to potentially be on
To leave
Mars
this
and
earth.
draw his time. But the sort of challenges psychologically that I face of that are really no different to the ones we face here in this world. About anxiety, about fear of failure, all of the things that women in particular, we all suffer from. These are not unusual for me. They're very common. So what about all of us? What can I learn here that will help me, to be a better person for the Mars mission? But gee whiz, I'll be so much more adapted as a human being for this planet if I don't get to go.
Well, I feel like we'll benefit both ways. We'll benefit if you get to go, and we'll benefit if we get to keep you.
That's
so
lovely.
Whatever it is that you want, which is to go, I hope that happens.
Thank you, Mia.
Thanks for listening to No Filter. No Filter was brought to you by the Telstra Smart Home app. Telstra brings you the magic of technology with Smart Home, a clever little app that lets you manage your home from everywhere. To find out more about the Mars One mission, head to Mars One. That's marsone.com. You can buy any book mentioned on our podcasts. I don't think Diane's written one yet, but I have. From iBooks at apple.co/Mamma Mia. And this is also where you can subscribe to all of our other shows in one place if you don't already have the Mamma Mia podcast app, which I think is going to come very handy on Mars in space, because Diane's going to have quite a lot of time there, including the 7 months she will have just on her way, just on her travels. Imagine how many podcasts she can listen to. I hope she's got the podcast app. If you want to suggest a guest or just ask me a question, you can call the pod phone on 02 8999 9386 or flick me an email at podcast@mamamia.com.au. Today's show was very bravely produced by Eliza Ratliff for the Mamma Mia Women's Network. The executive producer of podcasts is Monique Bowley, who's had a haircut, and the head of entertainment is Holly Wainwright, who would like a makeover. Her words, not mine.